Hey, this is Bondiesel, and today I bring you my thoughts on the state of the game that we got today that was based on the in-game world tiers, various activities in the world after we finished the game, and what literally felt like everything. I'll start with a kind of quick summary of the info. There was a whole lot, so it may not be as quick as I would like, but we'll try, and then I'll chat about my thoughts and reactions. If you want to skip that part, I'll let you know when it's coming. Last, some feel this state of the game was a bit spoilery, so if you don't want any info that may spoil things, I may suggest skipping this one, but that's up to you. Okay, jumping right in. Today we had Hamish and Trick Dempsey talking about the end game. Trick is a senior game designer at Massive. During the story, we talked about how you take down strongholds for each faction, which are the Hyenas, Outcasts, and True Sons. With the last one of the strongholds being the quote-unquote final mission of the regular story, which I believe will be the True Sons at the capital, but we have no confirmation of that. Strongholds will essentially be super missions and be significant in both the gear progression and the pushing forward of your character, as well as the story and lore of the game. There will be a short time after the last stronghold, which puts you in the world tier 1 of celebration before dun 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 the Black Tusk appear and take over all of the strongholds you just took down. Most of the city and their own stronghold appears in the tidal basin. Retaking those invaded strongholds will require that you beat 2 specified invaded missions, which will unlock the stronghold. The invaded missions are like some of the ones you've seen videos of, or from the beta, the one that you got to play at the end game. At release, the highest world tier will be 4 until they release the world tier 5 stronghold, which will actually be the tidal basin, which is the Black Tusk main base. We do know right now that the tidal basin stronghold will not be available at launch, which means that world tier 5 isn't available either, but will be released shortly after. So even as you take back the city through the invaded missions and strongholds, you'll still have to deal with strong versions of the original factions and completing and going through the open world against them and against Black Tusk. The Black Tusk will still be around even after you defeat them from an area, but just not as common. The thing that the Black Tusk will also do in this open world will, they can blockade the settlements. So the 3 settlements around the map that we know of right now can be completely blocked off. You can't fast travel to them. You can't do anything with them until you defeat the blockade that the Black Tusk will put around them. So, bounties. Bounties are one of the open world activities that you'll be able to do through the whole game. They appeared even in the beta that we got to play. At world tier 1, a quote-unquote snitch character will come into the gameplay loop who will give you information on new bounties and on a roaming vendor named Cassie Mendoza. Cassie will only appear under certain circumstances in almost anywhere in the map, and you'll need to figure those circumstances out to buy the incredibly good gear that she provides. There's also going to be a deck of 52 system in place that will essentially put a set of top priority enemies on your agenda, and they'll be separated by card suit and faction, leading to finding the face cards in each faction and reaping the rewards of finding them and killing them. Each boss will have their own card on them, and this will likely be attached to some type of commendation or collectible. Now, with the bounty system at world tier 4, it opens up a whole new level of top priority network bounties, which sounds like it kind of runs on a Shadow of Mordor or Assassin's Creed Odyssey type of system, where there are these like not necessarily randomly generated bounties, but these ones that have kind of a different type, kind of a random selection of weapons, skills, and abilities. And what it seems like is that you're basically going to knock out lower level bosses to work your way up to a legendary boss. It appears with many things in this game, whether it's the bounties, whether it's various control points and things like that, there's going to be things from easy all the way up to legendary difficulties, including with these bounties. During the story, you'll recruit a character named Otis Sykes to the base of operations during the game, who will be your contact for bounties and in the end game as well. Some bounties will be crafted specifically, but not all of them, and it will depend on the type you're doing. And it sounds like you could have even random names, the different officers and lieutenants and whatever they are. It seems like it's going to be kind of a dynamic experience. Other in-game activities will include priority missions. These are assigned directly to you by the Shade Network and are similar to the settlement and base of operation projects that we saw in the beta, but can be continued past the one day that you're playing them. And they don't require you to turn in anything to anyone. You just complete them and you get the reward. The last bit that we talked about were the control points and other in-game activities that you did during the regular game that get pushed up towards the end. So at World Tier 4, the control points can now be reinforced by your enemies. So you'll see a control point taken over by, say, the hyenas. You'll see it'll say +1 on that near the icon. Around that, there will be a bunch of other hyena things to complete that will all say +1 as well. As you knock out those activities around the control point, it makes the control point stronger, reinforces it, gives them better gear and more enemies, and it also increases the gear that you can get from taking over that control point. You can push these control points all the way up, I believe, to a level 4, which makes them a legendary control point, which will make them extremely hard to take over, but will also give you extremely good gear if you defeat them. Well, so there's the info. I probably missed some stuff. I maybe didn't explain everything right, but this was a lot of info, and I really tried to take it down the best I could. So if that's all you wanted, thanks for listening. Enjoy. Now I'm going to chat a little bit. The first thing I want to say is that I really enjoyed listening to Trick. They're a really interesting person. You can tell they're really dedicated and interested in the game, and I've never seen someone so excited to talk about what they do when it comes to anything, but especially the game that we all know and love. So I'm going to break down some of the information we got and kind of give my quick opinions on them. So the Strongholds, it's nice to kind of know even a little bit more about what they're all about. It seems like I didn't realize that. So we'll basically be taking down some of these strongholds through the story of the game, and then we're going to take them over again when the Black Tusk take them all over. So I like the idea of these, being our gates to the world tiers. I think people are going to have to get out of the mindset of Division 1, where the world tiers are something you chose, where you pick to be in one or the other. And this time it's more of, a few more levels of progression that are just all under one, 30 level. And it's something that you kind of have to do eventually. Now talking about that, the world tiers. So obviously the biggest little controversy we've had about this is that the Tidal Basin Stronghold / World Tier 5 will not be available at launch. I've seen people concerned about this because they feel like it makes their gear grind basically useless, because anything they get before World Tier 5, which World Tier 5 is, supposedly the end of the leveling progression, World Tier 5 gear you'll potentially keep forever, where anything before that you'll probably scrap relatively quickly once Tidal Basin does get released. I get that. There's a part of me that almost wishes they would have just announced 4 world tiers and then surprised us with a 5th. I think what people need to consider is that I think this is a longevity thing to a point, but what I'm also guessing is, remembering the lessons learned from Division 1, is that what I'm guessing is that for a couple weeks they're going to keep us at World Tier 4, see how people are grinding, see how people are playing the game, and more than anything, seeing how people try to break the game and find ways to get loot way faster than they're supposed to, exploit things to get gear faster than anyone else. And what I like about this is that hopefully within the first week or two, they can identify if those things are an issue. And then before they release World Tier 5, which is going to be so important for everyone, they are then able to try to nix any of those issues, because World Tier 5 is going to be important for 2 reasons. They're going to seemingly make the raid and finishing the raid first or at all kind of a race in the whole community. So if one little part of the community finds a way to essentially cheat, get better gear than everyone else, and then potentially have an advantage in the raid, they don't want that. At the same time, we'll have the Occupy Dark Zone from World Tier 1 on, which takes into account your actual gear stats and does not normalize anything. So up to World Tier 4, there's going to be people grinding, trying to get to World Tier 4, get the best gear, and go in there. But it's not permanent, because once World Tier 5 comes out, you're going to want that gear. So again, if they can take care of any issues with exploitative, methods of getting gear and loot and getting stuff faster than someone else can, I'm hoping that they're going to take that window to prevent those things from happening and impacting these, the raid and Occupy Dark Zone at World Tier 5. Is it an excuse? I guess, kind of. But at the end of the day, I'm going to have faith in them, and, that's just how I'm going to handle it. Bounties, I like bounties in general. I thought they were basically super HVTs, and little did I know after all of this that they're super duper HVTs, and that I don't think my brain is smart enough to really grasp. I think there's like 3 different bounty systems here, between the 52, this World Tier 4 where you have to beat a couple lower ones to get to a higher one, and then just regular bounties that you get in general. It seems like you could basically just do bounties all day, every day, and I am super cool with that. The deck of 52 is really, really neat because that harkens back to something that militaries have done for a long time, notably during the Iraq War after 9/11. There was a deck of 52 for Saddam Hussein and all of his officers and commanders and lieutenants, and basically it was, they handed these cards out to soldiers, they'd play cards with them, and they'd become familiar with the names and the faces of all these people who the military deemed very important to either kill or capture during the Iraq War. And essentially the idea was that if one of these fellows was hiding amongst the population from the soldiers, that they would bust into a house, they would see someone, they would recognize them. Hey, that's the Jack of Diamonds. They'd grab him and they'd take him in. I don't know how effective it was. I've heard it was, but it's hard to tell. But I really love this idea, and this is such a cool way to handle it. I hope that once you get all 52, there's some progression past that, but I'll try not to get too greedy before then. The control points thing to me sounds super cool. I actually really like the control points. I think they're a neat thing. I don't know how many people realize that during the beta, if you took a certain perk and you fully decked out a control point with supplies, you had 10 minutes of essentially x-ray vision for friendlies, enemies, and loot boxes. So you could run around the map and it would really clearly show you where enemies were and where loot was. So there are a whole bunch of secret rooms I found simply from fully decking out a control point and then running around. So at this World Tier 4 with the control points, we now know that the enemies, if you destroy activities around them, it makes the control point stronger, therefore gives you better loot. I'm now wondering if you can upgrade these control points once you control them to higher levels of loot that you can go collect every day or whatever, and it helps them fend off these stronger enemies. It gives maybe the civilians there, it gives them body armor and helmets and better guns and maybe even better emplacements and stuff like that. So I think it's really cool that the enemies can deck out the control points. I'm really curious to if we can help the civilians do that as well. That's what I have. I'm sorry if it was long, but if you liked the video and you want to see more, please subscribe, like, and comment down below. I really do want to hear what you think about all the stuff we learned. I'm going to do a whole video on setting appropriate expectations for this game and how I think we should do that, but I won't go into that today. If you want to check me out more than just on these videos, I'm on Twitch where I stream multiple times a week, and on Twitter as Bondiesel, and you can find a whole bunch of my other links on there, including my podcast, The Echo Cast. That's all I have. So until next time.
1, 2,